Alright, so today I'll be discussing passive and active voice in the context of scientific abstracts. First, let's review when the passive voice is used. It can be used when the agent is implied, such as in technical writing, if the agent is not known or it's unimportant for it to be known, such as in historical texts, if you need to obscure responsibility for actions, such as in journalism, but also stylistically to avoid repetitive use of first-person pronouns. Overall, the idea here is to manipulate the focus of the sentence. Since we will be looking at scientific abstracts, we should ask which voice is used by scientists. It is definitely both, but I don't think that fact is conducive to discussion, so I propose we ask instead which should they be using. I would say that is the active voice. This opinion is motivated by the work of Matt Young, an accomplished laser physicist who was formerly an editor for the review board of the National Institute of Standards and Technology. In addition to using the active voice, he asserts that technical writing should be in the first person, focus on one idea per sentence so you don't get lost and forget what the sentence meant, use a narrative structure to help the reader follow along, and also so that those who are not familiar with the specific topic can understand the work. With this last point, it is certainly important to consider your audience. If you are presenting physics work at a physics conference attended by other physicists, the jargony details matter because the discussion at the conference tends to be focused on tweaking the details rather than informing the public, in most cases. However, it should be different for published work. Academia has a pervasive problem of dry objectiveness perpetuated by the Academy's obsession with prestige. This obsession is counterintuitive, though. The point of publishing work is to communicate with others, so it is important that those in other fields have the chance to understand it. For example, let's say a biologist is trying to solve a problem that has failed with the standard techniques used by biologists. If this person is able to understand a physics paper, he may be able to create something new and revolutionary. Therefore, it is imperative that we overall shift the emphasis in academia from prestige to good communication. But anyway, that's all about usage, so let's get back to the grammar. Before we go over our examples, let's quickly review how to switch voice. If you begin in the active voice, to go to the passive voice, you need to move the object to the subject slot, add a B plus EN, and if applicable, make the agent an object. In the case of a passive sentence, you can switch to active by identifying the agent, deleting the B plus EN, and then rewriting the sentence to move the agent to the subject slot, revise the verb phrase, and make the passive subject the direct object. Now let's move on to those examples. My examples come from real abstracts submitted to the APS ARO meeting in 2018, which I did also present there myself. And so, our first example is from my own abstract that I submitted to present at that conference. As per the recommendation of my advisor, I wrote it in the active voice. It says, "We study quantum non-locality theory using Bell's theorem as a model quantum measurement inequality to understand the fundamental theoretical challenges posed by quantum entanglement and contextuality." You don't have to understand the jargon to look at the passive phrase, "We study quantum non-locality theory." The verb string for this is present plus study. Using the rules we just reviewed, we can add the B plus EN to the verb string, and we also move the direct object, which is quantum non-locality theory, to the subject position, and it looks something like this. Our next example comes from a fellow undergraduate student. Obviously I picked this one because it involves passive voice, and it reads, "Central regions of several nearby spiral galaxies are completely void of atomic hydrogen. Using a telescope at the Etzkorn Observatory fitted with a charge-coupled device, direct observations of spiral galaxies have been made." Here we see the passive use of "have been made" to describe observational measurements. The first sentence of this abstract states a general fact about the field, so, given that the second sentence lacks a specific agent, we technically have no idea whether the second sentence is stating a fact or describing measurements made by the researcher who wrote this abstract. As it's written, all it implies is that these observations have been done before, by someone. Who knows who? For this reason, I consider this a possible grammar mistake. Now let's have some audience participation. Who can identify the passive verb string? I'll give you a second to think about it. Alright, well, if you guessed past plus have plus be plus en plus make, then you were correct. Now, how can this be modified to active voice? I'll let you think about it for just a moment. If you guessed past plus make, then you were correct. Alright, so now we can change direct observations of spiral galaxies have been made to we made direct observations of spiral galaxies. Now it is explicit that the writer of this abstract performed those observations. For our last example, I want to discuss usage by considering repetition and style. This abstract is from a professional physicist. In this example, the word "we" is used multiple times in the abstract. It says, "We investigate the use particle swarm optimization algorithm and the detection of gravitational waves from compact binary coalescences. We present results for coincident and coherent searches for CBCs with PSO algorithm." And so this repetitive use of "we" makes for poor flow, but how do we correct this while maintaining meaning? I think the first use of "we" is appropriate and necessary because it notifies the reader to who the agent in this abstract will be. The next few sentences that follow are also an active voice, even though you can't see it since I did cut this down to be concise. But since the agent has been so well established due to the consistent use of active voice, I think it is appropriate to make a stylistic revision to passive voice. So now we change "we present results" to "results are shown." I'd like to add a fun anecdote that there was a physicist who once listed his cat as an author on a publication because he had to use the active "we." So you see under the authors here, we have J.H. Hetherington, who was the actual physicist who wrote the paper, and then F.D.C. Willard was the name of his cat. So you see both of the authors had signed this particular manuscript, and of course the signature of F.D.C. Willard was a paw print, which is adorable. And thank you for listening. Of course, this slide is a little old because I presented this originally in my Advanced Grammar and Usage class at Lemoyne College. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to comment below, send me a message or something, as I really like to discuss this with anyone who's interested to hear what other people think about these particular uses of grammar. Thank you for watching.